Before we start the show, I want to let you all know the views, opinions, beliefs, and statements expressed are not necessarily those of KBeach Radio and Otaku Hourly. They are, in fact, of the host, guest, and/or caller. KBeach Radio and Otaku Hourly hold no responsibility for the validity and/or accuracy of information. Now, with that out of the way, here we go. Proud to be broadcasting from Cal State University, Long Beach. We are kbeach.org and KBeach FM, 88.1 FM, KKJZ, HD3, Long Beach, Los Angeles. Joining you for coffee at 10 o'clock. This is Otaku Hourly, your backdoor anime hangout.
I'm your show host, Jonathan JoStar Beltran. Here with me today in the studio is my crew members.
Kaleb. The ChuniDex Dakota.
I'm Tora.
And I'm Christian Wiseman.
And we actually have a returning guest after about 6 or 7, maybe a year long. Cynical Experiments is back.
Dun, dun, dun.
Let's check to see if my mic's working.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
Dandy as always. Dandy as always. Well, let's get on to business. We're here to debate. It's one of our annual segments, which I should probably revive anyways. Clap or crap. And this one, we're going to be looking into Sword Art Online.
Yay.
Woot woot.
Pause.
I know. This was actually requested by many of our followers. And so I said, hey, why don't we actually do this? And so we're doing it right now. We have assembled a unique group of people, which ranges from people who love it, people who hate it, and people who are just really neutral about it. Kaleb and I are going to be the mediators of this episode. Scott and the ChuniDex are going to be the haters. And since Marvin Marth has yet to come in, Tora and Christian are going to be the supporters.
I'm neutral.
She's a neutral. I'm outnumbered.
Well,
Tori, you just really gotta act. You really gotta act like you like this.
It's good, I swear.
it's not that you have to act. You just have to believe. Remember, this is anime.
Anything's good if you try hard enough.
Yes, yes.
Naruto was like 10 times better.
I'm sorry, sir. You mean One Piece. Anyways, with that out of the way, let's go basically talk about what the synopsis of Sword Art Online is. Basically, from what I understand, it is just, hey, everyone is using virtual reality headsets. And in addition to that, they get trapped into a video game. The rule is the creator made it specific that if they are trapped within the video game and they die within the video game, you die in real life. And so it's up to our main protagonist, Kirito, as well as a bunch of other gamers to get out before it's game over.
That's the main threat, and it's gone in 3 episodes.
Yeah.
That's just one arc.
You got the first 12 out of 50.
Yes. So here's the main guidelines for this whole episode, basically.
Yeah, you better set some boundaries.
Yeah, we have to set some boundaries. First of all, we're not going to be talking about the movie. No ordinal scale. We're only going to be talking about the show in general. So season 1 and season 2. Ergo, that's what we're going to be doing. So let's all go start off with season 1, part 1. Kaleb, you want to add anything to what season 1, part 1 is?
I think it has, out of the, as far as OPs goes, I believe the first part of SAO, at least what the first OP has shown, is probably like the best one, as far as how the music goes well with the animation and basically the style. Because if you've noticed, the future OPs right after is very janky and the music quality just doesn't really match up. So I've only saw the first episode of SAO, so that's how, from a non-biased point, that's how I would see at least for a beginner.
Right. And in addition to that, I kind of want to ask about the first 3 episodes, because what I know is the first 3 is what hooked nearly everyone into the series. So I want to ask Team Love, what are your first impressions of the first 3?
So for the first few episodes, we're introduced. So I think we need to back up a little bit. Let's introduce the characters for a few, just so we all are on the same page.
Yeah.
So the first person we're introduced to is his actual name is Kazuto Kirigaya, but online he goes by the name Kirito, and he was part of this game, Sword Art Online, which was it's supposed to be a virtual reality. They call it a virtual reality massive multiplayer online role playing game, or VR VMORPG. Too long. Basically, too long. Too long to read. It's a video game.
VR MMORPG. Basically MMORPG, but VR.
Yes,
Right.
And so the way this works is they wear these headsets that are that pretty much go on your head like Iron Man type of deal, and they will lay down and it does something with their brain, makes it so like they're actually physically in the game. So they don't have any concept of their actual bodies or what's happening anywhere like that. So Kirito was one of the first 100 people for this closed beta, so he was like, okay, cool, I know what to expect. So what happened was, as soon as the game turned on, the entire script got switched up and flipped up and everything, and then we have another guy who I can't remember the guy's name, but he basically
Klein.
No. The guy who created Sword Art.
You mean Kaibaki Hiko?
Yes, yeah. He has a huge god complex, so he decided, you know what? All y'all are going to be in my hands, and y'all can't escape this thing. Y'all can't log out. If somebody unplugs your thing, your brain nerve gear, which is what they call the headset, is going to short out, and all y'all going to die. So and that's pretty much where we are at this first start, and pretty much people, as expected, kind of went insane. A few times they had over thousands of people dying and committing suicide in some way, shape, or form.
2,000 people in the first 2 months.
Yes.
Or was it 3,000? I forgot.
I think it's 2,000.
2,000.
A lot of
It was a
people
lot.
died.
Whatever makes more drama for the writer.
Yeah.
People die when they are killed.
Yeah.
Wrong show.
Not to mention, I think the creator even said like there's 100 floors in the game, so whoever
Yeah.
reaches and beats the 100th floor boss, I think they set everyone free, or
Everyone gets
everyone
free.
Gets freed. Everyone gets freed. So,
But
so
the
we're
writer
not-
agrees that's not important.
Yeah, no, that's not
At least
important.
until ordinal scale. We're not bringing that up.
Yeah, we're not bringing that
Yeah,
up.
no. Yeah, I haven't seen the movie yet, so
Right.
I don't want y'all spoiling for me.
Right.
Keep going. Stay on track.
So here's the thing. First 3 episodes, did it look promising to you, like Team Love?
I'm going to say yes. I mean, I enjoyed it. It seemed like something. Okay, cool. This seems pretty cool. The concept of like you're playing a video game and you're expecting to have fun, and then oh snap, things become serious like real quick and in a hurry. And it's kind of interesting that especially with today and age, we're getting closer to VR technology.
Right.
So this type of thing might actually become an issue in the future, which is kind of, I don't want to say it's like a commentary, but it could be seen like in the same sense that Star Trek, was a loose commentary. If I can make that analogy,
right?
Like some of the things that are coming up can now be affected, in the future.
I'm just gonna add in a little quickly that keep in mind, Sword Art Online came in at around 2012, and this was during like the tech hype, like when it was just like super booming and whatnot. Go ahead, Dakota.
And it's certainly not, it's not the first show to have this concept or idea, but I'm going to try not to use too much of Mother's Basement or Digibro's arguments, because they've already basically debated the heck out of this.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Although they make
they're
good
the bad
points.
analysis.
And that is, it was in the right place at the right time, and there were a lot of factors that made it incredibly successful from a broadcasting point of view.
I want to say my piece, because I think I'm the only one out of everyone here that actually competitively plays MMOs all the time.
that makes sense.
So when I started watching anime back actually in like 2011, 2012. So when my friend came up to me and said, hey, there's this cool new video game anime about MMOs and people get trapped in them and it's cool. And I'm like, oh, this sounds interesting to me because it relates to me, which is what captured, I think, a lot of people was that, hey, I play these same games and that it can go in and capture a lot of, and go in a lot.
And I just want to add was Tori just says of, like back then where it was, like Dakota said, it was like at the right time, at the right place of, people are interested with MMOs or, it's the hype of the VR technology at its birth. For what it's given, SAO is a good like entry anime where a sense where it's at the it's at a perfect setting and people who probably never watched anime or are not hardcore fans probably approach SAO as like, oh, this looks promising and at the right time and at the right place, I should watch this.
Now, I kind of want to get it over to Cynical Experiments because I want to see where he falls. Now we're getting into Team Hate now. So, same question. Did SAO look promising to you, Cynical Experiments?
Well, back when I watched it in 2012, it was one of the first shows I watched anime, and I was just this little naive guy, and this was some harmless adventure show that came and went in a month. But yeah, immediately off the bat, this thing is just completely unfiltered wish fulfillment. Just right off the bat.
Right.
You go from this threat that it's something, but it's not like too grandiose or complex, just a threat of death, and you just go from it to collecting waifus, and then this writer just throws around the concept of death willy-nilly like people's suicide at the drop of a pin. It's just completely immature. The writing as it was is just really clunky, and since I have more beef with the writing later on, I could just tackle this right here. People who like this show mostly defend it honestly for the production values. They just say, oh, it's just it looks pretty, it sounds good. The animation's really boring. It's just shonen drek. The music is Yuki Kajiro's worst. Allow me to introduce you to your new favorite anime, Karno Kyokai.
Yeah. And the ChuniDex, you had something to add?
Yeah, actually to say it's it is the fact that it did came in the right place at the right time, and that's why a lot of people got into it, say compared to like Dot Hack, who technically did it earlier. But it's really just because the esports, because the MMO scene was starting to become a lot larger, that there was an attraction to people who are already involved in these fields, as well as people who were already sort of even kind of new to the medium, who wanted to basically look at, this is a very attractive looking show. It has a really good musical score. And it's something that they can really sort of introduce them to anime. Now, see, I've been watching anime longer than when SAO was out, so this was kind of just something that sort of happened upon me when I first started doing more Crunchyroll stuff. It was around the time Crunchyroll started to also come big.
Tori, you had something to add?
I want to say also, this is a pretty good gateway anime as well. It's not the best thing ever. It's not the worst thing ever. And it's really good for kids. I work around a bunch of 13-year-olds where this for them would be like the highlight of their lives. They'd be watching SAO and stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's the key. 13-year-olds.
Yeah, that is the key.
Only ones who could possibly take this seriously.
But isn't that when most people started watching anime? That was like that like early high school type of life when you're starting to like talk to people and they're like, hey, I found this cool new thing called anime. And so it was a good gateway to, I believe, for most people, because most of the kids I talk to that like anime, there's like only 2 that go out of their way to watch seasonal shows, and everyone else is like, oh, I like SAO, it's really good. You know, that's fine for them. It's not like they're gonna sit there and watch all of Fate Zero or something really mature that I like.
Fate Zero's not mature.
So
that's going a little bit off topic there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christian.
Let's get back.
Well, I mean, I have to admit, it's not one of the best things ever. But I feel this anime isn't really meant to be, really, it's I think it's really meant to just, enjoy, just something to watch, something to enjoy, something to, fall in love with the characters. And, it's not something super, in depth.
We'll get more into SAO right after the break.
Hey, this is Master Roshi. You're listening to Otaku Hourly. Bulma, listen to it with me, sitting closely beside me.
I'm your show host, Jonathan JoStar Beltran. Here with me today in the studio are my crew members.
Kaleb.
The ChuniDex Dakota.
Tora.
I'm Christian Wiseman.
And over at the Skype feed, we have...
Cynical Experiments, hello.
Yes. So once again, if you are just catching up with us today, we're talking about Sword Art Online. And so let's get into... That's fine. Let's get a little bit of Season 1, Part 1 in here, specifically Episode 1 through 14. One of the things that really attached people to Sword Art Online was not only just Kirito, Asuna was a big thing. So I want to know, where do you all fall on this? Kaleb, I know that we're team mediator / neutral. What were your thoughts?
On first glance, I honestly thought she was another damsel in distress. Mm-hmm. But from what I could pick up from other people interpretation of her, she really does pick up her own self. Where I mean, there's been some scenes where Kirito saves her, but there's been scenes also where she's very independent and she could hold her own battles against other people, and in some cases saved Kirito. That one time, I believe, in the ditch or canyon one time from one of the nights. But yeah.
Yeah. All right, Team Love, I'm going to you guys. What do you think of Asuna's role?
Asuna's role, I had to be honest here.
Yeah, remember, this is just episode 1 through 14.
Okay, episode 1 through 14. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the beginning, which I believe that's episode 1 through 14, yeah. She actually had a pretty strong role. She was a strong female character. Mm-hmm. She held her own. She was a second in command of the guild. I'm blanking on the name of the guild right now, but she was number 2. So she controlled all these folks, and at the time, she was a strong character.
Right. Tora, what do you have to add to that?
She's all right. Mm-hmm. She's more like just a giant tsundere to me. As team pure neutral here,
she's falling apart.
She's just come back to me with season 2, part 2. Mm-hmm. But for the first part of SEO, she's not the worst. She is the only female that gets the most screen time out of everyone. So she's the only. Actually, I think she's the only female character that actually gets screen time through the entirety of part 1.
Okay.
Yep.
So I guess that's her only push forward as to being better.
So wait, they just drop her at season 2 or something?
Well, we won't get to that.
It's just part 1.
Later on. Just part 1.
But she was like the only one for like a while, and it was just like, she's all right. She's just a big tsundere, which is, I like tsunderes.
And they eventually introduce other minor characters throughout that same arc as well. But they aren't really important, because we just introduce them like one character's like Elizabeth, who is a blacksmith and stuff like that.
Yes.
Right. And now I want to shift over to Team Hate, where Cynical Experiments, what are your thoughts on Asuna's role? Keep in mind, this is only through 1 through 14.
Yeah, she's a bore. I mean, obviously they tried to make her some level of strong, but of course the writer couldn't keep that up. Even then she was boring, but Kirito was boring, the whole cast was boring, the whole script was boring. Couldn't really fix it. She's just sterile generic waifu to add to his flesh to be your main guy.
I have to jump in right there. I mean,
yeah, shoot.
Well, while the character may be boring at times, I don't believe it's fair.
Design.
I don't believe it's fair to say that the cast was boring. It was pretty much an all-star cast, at least for the English version, which I have right in front of me. You have like Bryce Papper doing Ghost Kirito. I don't think it was sucked really.
It wasn't that bad.
Can we get back on
passable? Wait, Scott, let him talk.
It was an all-star cast. I don't feel it's fair really to dog the cast that did this. I believe if we keep doing it, we should probably stick with the actual content of the story, not the cast. So
are you?
That's what I'm saying. The characters are boring. I'm not. The voice actors had a lot of fun. It's so evident of the bloopers, and I'm glad they had a lot of fun. I'm saying the characters are all boring as hell.
Dakota, I do, or rather, the ChuniDex. I want to get your take on it. What did you think of Asuna as a character?
I think
keep in mind episode 1 through 14.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's more later, and I think in like, I'm not saying that any of the characters in SA are written particularly well, but I think out of all of them, her and Klein are probably the most interesting.
Klein, my boy.
Yeah.
What makes Asuna, at least in this episode gap, the most interesting out of all characters?
I think it's simply due to the fact that while they didn't explore this, and I regret that they didn't, she honestly contributed the most to the actual overarching plot. She was on the front lines for the first 2 years where Kirito was slowly just kind of grinding and becoming stronger. She developed bonds within her guild, which we didn't really ever get to explore.
Which is sad.
And outside of her tsundere-ness between Kirito, she actually can have a very strong, dynamic personality that does eventually get fleshed out. I'm not saying that like she's god tier written. Honestly, I think it's still mediocre at best. But at the end of the day, if I had to basically examine the cast, she's definitely the most interesting. I actually, in some regards, think that if all the other girls weren't around there to essentially really tempt Kirito, we could have actually gotten a lot more out of her. Perhaps maybe more character development.
Scott, you seem to have a good time. What's going on?
This is also very funny.
Why? What's going on?
God. Dakota, I never thought you'd be so lenient on this mess.
Don't get me wrong, I hate the show, but I have to at least be fair.
Right.
Fairness.
Let's use a completely sterile tsundere, all right.
Yeah. So now let's segue into the deal breaker.
Can we just not?
No,
I don't think anyone
we have to look into this. This is a very,
I'll jump right into it.
we
Okay.
have to talk about
I got beef to
this.
say.
No, just do Christian. The other three of us have beef. Let's just do Christian.
Look, season 1, part 2, episode 15 through 25. This is the portion where I like to call it as the deal breaker. Now, I want somebody to summarize the plot in 2 sentences. I believe it. Tora?
I got it.
No.
I got it.
Scott, no. Tora, you are
Alright, okay,
team
fine.
neutral. You're team neutral. Remember, tackle this in a objective way.
So part 2 of SAO continues off of part 1, where they were freed from SAO. They were freed from the clutches of Sword Art Online. Everyone's
Spoilers.
free.
It's been out for 5 years, guys. Come on.
But everyone's free, and they all go out, and then Asuna is somehow still trapped. So then Kirito learns that she's stuck in this game, in a new game called Alpine.
Fumofu.
Final Fantasy 14. Cool flying fairy game where it's a new MMO that runs off the same kind of like engine, still a VR MMORPG kind of era. But he goes into this game and basically kind of relearns his stuff. Relearns his way into the game in order to go out and save Asuna. On the way, he meets another female character and continues on the journey where basically he kind of like explores this world, and it's kind of honestly really boring.
Hello, incest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I was trying to avoid that.
A sister. I'm like, okay, I'm a fan of the show. I'm like, near the end of the first half for the first arc, it started going. First we get Asuna going downhill to not
It's
having a strong
literally
character
damsel in
anymore.
distress
Yeah.
status. This is where Asuna falls,
No.
and it's like, oh.
Go, Christian.
It's been a while, so I feel comfortable talking about it. Now she's stuck. She got captured in some cage somewhere by this guy who done bought SAO, and he fell. And Kirito's now trying to get to Asuna. He falls in love with the character who he doesn't know.
He doesn't fall in love with
He
her.
doesn't fall in
No. I mean, the character falls in love with Kirito. What's the online name? Letha, who was actually Kirito's cousin,
Who he considers his sister.
who he considers a sister. So it's like, why?
Like, what did you feel as a I want to get more into this. Like, what did you feel?
I wanted to turn it off. I love the show.
See, no one likes this part. That's why I never write over. It's like
It's
no
the
one likes this
worst.
part.
And
There's nothing redeemable. It was the only redeemable part about this arc was like the cool wings. It was like, it's cool.
Right.
Just
Go ahead.
finish it real quick. The fun thing is that this aired on Toonami. So I was one of the people that was on the live tweeting this show. During this whole arc, the entire Twitter sphere was like, WTF, why? This is the worst. I'm skipping this show. And there was literally, I mean, I'm like, I'm with them. I hated this arc. It was, right. I mean, and then we get to a later part where it becomes a hentai in a way.
In a way, that's awfully. That's
my way of saying it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I want to take it over to the ChuniDex. What was your take on part 2 of season 1, episodes 15 to 25?
This is basically with probably the only other example I can ever think of being maybe like I'm not going to go into that. Basically, where a badly mediocre written anime becomes a garbage fire, pretty much in a nutshell. This is basically what happens when you get so off track of your original premise and go into so much buffer and filler because the biggest problem, and even kind of defend the first part, they could take their time with trying to clear the 100 floors. You could explore side stories. Do I think they should have? No. But in this case, you have a very clear directive. You have to go save your in-game wife, basically from this cage up in this tree. But then Kirito just sidetracks, and he keeps sidetracking. He keeps doing different things, and you even question, is Asuna even still here? Is she still even like? Does he even care anymore? And you just kind of question, where did the plot go?
I mean, those elements of bad script writing were there from part 1, but this time it's just up to the 10th degree, and this was the point that even the delusional gamer weirdos who stuck with the show and took it seriously said, okay, no more. This is weird.
And, it got to a point where, in game, we didn't even know Asuna existed. It was only until, Kirito got out the game, as Kazuto, and went to the hospital and saw Asuna in the hospital. That's for the longest, for me, I would say maybe about half that arc. That's the only way we knew Asuna even existed. And apparently, that's actually what the name she used. So she actually used her real name in the game, which is pretty cool. I know some people that do that.
Now, question for everybody. What I feel that season 2 was, at least for given the context that this is probably like the first gateway anime to everyone, would you say this part 2 is what made everybody woke? As in, like, oh, anime.
No. Happened way before that.
Anime is it's imperfect. Oh.
I feel, while some people didn't like it from the beginning, I feel this second arc really exasperated that and made it more widespread. That, you know what, this is trash. I ain't watching this bleep anymore. Yeah.
Tora.
It's definitely the part where even good old 14-year-old Tora was like, this is boring. Me, I'm entertained by everything. I could watch a ball bounce up and down and I'd be entertained for hours. This was really boring. And especially for someone that really likes MMOs, I was mostly just interested in them flying around than them even saving Austin. I was like, dang, these game mechanics are pretty cool, but everything else is really boring.
ChuniDex.
I honestly just think that people were so committed to the show at this point and didn't want to feel like they were wrong about it that they just stuck with it even into season 2.
Got it. And Cynical Experiments.
This is going to be a while, John.
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
First of all, I do have to get this sort of out of there because I won't leave the show satisfied without addressing it. The fact that a cousin, just for like 2 seconds saying, oh, by the way, I'm kind of attracted to you, turned everyone off at this point, that's kind of totally unfair.
Yeah.
There was so much horribly written stuff way before that.
No, I agree.
It's like the hint of incest just drove everyone away. That's so insulting.
Okay.
I mean, it happens in anime so much. You think that the other tropes would have thrown them off the path, but this
You'd
is
think, Dakota, but we can't have nice things.
We can't have nice things.
Yeah.
I like my tropes, honestly.
Some people like the different tropes of things here or there. So, I can see why it took a while for some people, that liked it not to fall off and say this is terrible.
Quickly, Tora.
Tropes are what make people kind of more attracted to certain characters as well.
Yeah.
So people watch harems. That's why people watch reverse harems, because people follow those tropes too.
Yeah.
And I have to address this because I'm surprised this never came up. The villains are probably
I was about to go.
The villains are probably what makes me the most infuriated with this series, because I'm going to talk about the part 2 villain. I need to go back to part 1 real quick. Kaiba Akihiko, because he's important in part 2 as well. Basically, this man creates a game where he attempts to kill everyone, and then when they ask for his motivation, he says, "I don't know."
Yeah.
He literally said,
And then they have the nerve. They have the freaking nerve in part 2. And this is my problem with basically every SAO villain after Kaiba Akihiko, is that they basically make them I'm going to basically go and violate a girl, and that's my evil trope, and that is it. That's basically what they do in part 2. That's what they do in part 3, and is really, really... it's basically just a written trope villain, but it's the fact that Kirito even had the nerve to defend Kaiba Akihiko, the man who trapped him in a game for 2 years for being this great content creator who basically sent him on this mission to become a creator and defeat our part 2 villain.
and was responsible for killing over 3,000 people.
Thank you. This has
And
been
it's just sort of
bothering me
totally
this entire
brushed under the
time.
rug. Yeah.
Because if it was anywhere like near reality, he would have been thrown in jail, locked away, charged with murder,
But this is
and
anime.
never been left. I mean, yeah, but this is anime.
He's dead at least.
But we don't even know how he dies.
No, and then he just comes back at like the last episode of part 2, and it's like here, Kirito, and it's like, what are you doing here? I don't know.
I think the
Jesus
game,
powers.
I'm not going to even get into Deus Ex Machina. That's just going to
No, I'm not either.
Christian, go.
I think they explained him still living the same way they explained Kirito's nerve gear not blowing up his brain when he got a game over. So
They explained that?
You mean Deus Ex Machina?
explained in quotes, in
Okay.
air quotes.
Briefly, though.
Okay.
I don't remember how they explained it. It was
Deus Ex Machina.
it was so loosely done. It was like a footnote on every single thing.
Yeah.
Which I have to admit, the writing isn't the best. I have to admit that.
Right. Cynical Experiments. I want to backtrack to about the villains and whatnot. What is your take on that?
Well, on like Todd Habercorn Butterfly, he's not a bore, but he is like easily the most annoying thing I've ever encountered. And he's just this total shallow written guy, just infuriating writing. It's just complete fan fiction, dreck. Violating the heroine at the drop of a hat, writer incorporating his really uncomfortable fetishes. It's just ridiculous. And then going back to his wanking on death empowerment.
Right.
They have to narratively kill him twice to get the satisfaction from the really shallow buildup of just Kirito just completely offing him.
Now, I want to use this as a segue for season 2, part 1, which is episode 1 through 14.5. Is it necessary? Is it necessary to have watched like the second part of season 1?
No.
To get
It is never necessary
skip
to
it.
watch this.
Just skip it. You could sit through first 13 episodes, honestly, because it's not that bad as everyone says it is. It's definitely
You
enjoyable.
just can't. Sorry.
It's definitely
it's totally simple. It goes by really quick.
yeah. It's still likable in the respects that you don't take it seriously. You just enjoy it for what it is, basically.
Now,
And I think
now explain what.
It's not even enjoyable. It just goes by.
Now
You
what
can't just let know who's behind that.
Wait.
what is season 2, part 1, episode 1 through 14.5? What is the plot?
this is Gun Gale Online, guys. So instead of swords, you get guns. But guess who still uses a sword? Kirito uses a lightsaber through the entire thing instead of a gun like everyone else.
They don't call it a lightsaber.
What is it called?
They call it a what do they call that thing?
A lightsaber.
Light stick.
I know.
Something like a light something, but it's not a lightsaber.
It's a
Marvin when you need
lightsaber.
him?
It's a lightsaber.
It's a lightsaber, though.
Okay.
Can I actually say that this part actually pisses me off more than the second half of the first season?
I don't know how it does because I just
Is it the villain?
no because okay I went
This is just a shallow progression.
okay like I went because when they announced SAO2 I walked in I'm like you know what
Sorry.
I don't care that much I'm just going to walk in with it accept it for what it is and just go in. So I went in and I had the lowest expectations, also the lowest expectations possible, just the bottom, the end. And so I went in and I'm like, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, because I just went in with nothing. I just wanted to enjoy some good old shoot 'em ups.
Christian, part of Team Love, what was your take on season 2, part 1? Was it something that you feel like, okay, hopefully the series can win me back after part 2 of season
I'm the
1?
type of person where I can go ahead and say, okay, that last season was trash, but I can be optimistic for them. So I was optimistic for something better. So we're introduced to a new, of course, Gun Gale Online, a new character, new female lead,
the best girl.
Yeah, who's named Scion.
Which isn't saying much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and originally we're told that she's actually she was a strong female character at first, and then we start finding out more about her story, and then she completely just disintegrates into the same old that's been of the female characters, of just destroying the strong female character, which I have to say, is a travesty of the show. But it wasn't awful. As far as the season, it wasn't awful. It wasn't the best. It was just something to just really sit and try to enjoy.
Would you say this is just as enjoyable as season 1, part 1?
I would kind of.
Yeah, I would. I would
it's
say that.
Fun. If you go into expecting nothing like you did with season 1, then you're just going to enjoy it.
ChuniDex, I want to get your bit on this as a part of Team Hate.
Okay, so I honestly hate this part more than part 2. I thought part 2 of season 1 was boring. Other than Xenon, and I actually do somewhat like her. I'm not, once again, she's not a greatly written character, but she was at least somewhat intriguing. This part really just I was done at this point. This is actually where I was actually just watching the show just so I could basically at this point just to say how much I hate it, and I had to drop it here because I couldn't take the pain anymore.
Oh my god, I felt that so many times during a race.
But so this is. Here's my okay. Up until this point, I wanted to basically ignore my issues with the game mechanics. This is the point where I can no longer ignore it because it was actually essential to the plot.
Yeah,
and that is the entire villain motivation was built around the mechanics of Gun Gale Online. Yep. And here's my problem with it. To anyone who has ever played in a competitive scene at any point, you understand basically the work that basically goes into making a build for a character. Now, what happens is at the very beginning of the arc, they basically say, okay, agility builds are out, strength builds are in. The villain of this arc basically then says, I hate this, let's go kill this guy, and basically pretend that we're killing them in the game. Mm-hmm. And basically, it's not even this guy's fault who is announcing it, it's the game's fault, because it takes an entire year just to make a build, which in competitive would kill this game immediately. Mm. So I honestly, at this point, this is just where I can't overlook this. This is just stupid as heck.
Wow. I think you cared too much.
No, I honestly think that the part 2 villain had more motivation than the part 3 villains. The part 3 villains are just, we're going to kill a guy because we can.
Because the writer loves death.
For a reason that makes
it's the only way he knows how to create drama.
No, it would have made more sense for him to kill the developer than it would to have just killed this announcer guy who basically said, oh, well, we're just going to announce this. I have no part in it, so there you go.
Messenger.
Christian, do you have your rebuttal?
No, I don't. Because
that's so in detail to the point where it's just like, all right.
That is exactly what happened. I mean, it's... And it... It also had a bit of a fault in the game itself, but they made it really easy to find out who somebody was in actuality. So they didn't explain about, I guess they had IPs, so it was easy to track something like that. So you had 2 folks that was working together, and it was part of a guild from Sword Art that the previous game, or 2 games back, that was known for killing players. And instead of just making it in the game, they took it to real life because they got a high off of it or some type of thing, and now we got a character called Death Gun.
The Laughing Coffin, by the way.
Yeah, Laughing Coffin, yeah.
I know way too much about the show.
I can't defend that, and there's no defending that. Mm-hmm. this is one of the sad things, that the writing isn't the best in this anime. It's sad, but I don't know. I still can enjoy it. It's
So what were some of the, I guess if I want to use it in just the word that I can think of right now, what was the saving grace like for season 2, part 1?
Let's do on the whole, because we're kind of running short.
Shinnon was honestly the saving grace of
Yeah.
the show for the majority of the show. It was just
She was.
Shinnon's presence was so much better than Asuna after the end of that, and she was really cool, and she was a sniper, and the whole thing about episode 2, where it was actually just her playing the game, was actually really cool, and she was just so cool, and then it just started falling off, and you just started accepting what life.
And for a while they developed her pretty well, and they talk about her story, which if I were to isolate that in itself, I can see that was understandable. So in a way, she created herself a persona because her character was, I think if I remember correctly, she was either robbed or she had somebody murdered right in front of her with the gun. So
she killed someone with a gun.
yeah, that's what it was. She killed somebody with the gun.
Yeah.
So she had used in the game in a way, almost as therapy in a way for her to, try to get over her fear of guns until something happens where she's playing the game and she snaps to that same memory. It's not explained how, but she's paralyzed, and then Kirito has to save her butt, and that's when it goes downhill from that point right there. So it was, for a while they did pretty well explaining her character, explaining her story, until they decided to go the cheap route and then go down the hill and down into a field of nothingness.
Right, and we'll continue this discussion right after the break. Right now, we're going to be doing our giveaway announcement where we're going to declare who the winner is. And so, we're basically going to do a prize opportunity including a video game from Access Gaming, Guilty Gear XRD Revelator on PS4, the Otaku Pin Club's Kamina Pin, and prizes from Crunchyroll, which includes the Ushio and Tora bag, which is an AX 2016 exclusive, and a Crunchyroll gift certificate for 90 days as a premium. So now Marvin is rushing over to me. Who is our winner?
All right, so the winner for this week's prize opportunity is Lauren Vigil.
Woo! Yeah, Lauren Vigil. Congratulations. Thank you so much for tuning in, Lauren Vigil. We sincerely appreciate that, and we will message you and whatever the such. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin the show.
This is Bateau from Ghost in the Shell. You're listening to Otaku Hourly.
I'm your host, Jonathan JoStar Beltran. Here with me today in this studio is my crew members.
Kaleb.
The ChuniDex Dakota.
Marvin, a.k.a. Marth.
Tora.
And I'm Christian Wiseman.
And on the Skype.
Cynical Experiments, so we got 7 minutes, guys.
Yes.
All right, let's roll.
Yes. So now we
should
are
probably just get to wrapping it up.
Well, first we have to talk about season 2, part 2, 15 through 24. We were talking midway into the show that this is basically the best part, if I'm not mistaken. Christian.
Okay, so it's sad that we don't have a lot of time, but the quick version of it is we're back in AGL or Alpine Online, and so Gun Gale's done. Sion's never heard from again. So we're now introduced to a new character who I'm blanking on her name. And
Yuki Asuka.
Yes, Yuki Asuka. And she is amazing at this game. She even somehow figured out a way to beat Kirito in a one-on-one duel. So she's really good at what she does. And then we find out some of her story, which really is what acts as a commentary. So we find out that she uses the game as an escape from reality, because in reality she's super sick. They gave her the writers, for some reason, they decided to give her full-blown AIDS. And so she's in a hospital, clean room. She can't escape or do anything. And I think they even have her unconscious.
She is unconscious.
And so she uses this game as an escape for her. And it's basically, how she's spending out the rest of her days. Instead of being trapped in a hospital room, she's having fun in this online world where she can walk, talk, and interact with people. And, I think this is one of the better arcs, because we were talking before, you don't truly know who you're talking with online. And this is a perfect way of doing that, of explaining that, to give life to somebody that's online that, you don't really know who it is.
Tora.
I want to point out also that this entire arc does not have Kirito in it. Instead, we follow Asuna around.
Oh, okay.
Asuna is actually our main protagonist for this entire thing, along with Yuki. But what Christian said before is that what this arc grabbed me and most of my friends is that as someone who has a lot of online friends, you don't really truly know who they are. And I think that was the key point that made this arc so good. Because not only did the writing actually get a lot better in this arc, because one, Kirito is gone. Two, we get to learn about Asuna a lot and makes Asuna such a more likable character from what she used to be. Or she was good, fell down more, and then shot way back up, which was a really good thing. But also just this entire thing just made it a lot more interesting.
Marth, you had something to add.
Well, I mean, you guys pretty much summed it up there. Basically what Tora and Christian mentioned. You don't know who your, I guess, pretty
Online.
much you don't know who
your online friends are.
Online friends, yes.
If I could just say one more quick thing, it did something where it imitated real life. Where after what's her name dies, from AIDS, complication to AIDS, they have. If I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I believe they had a little mini funeral in the game.
They did.
Yeah, they had a little mini funeral in the game, which actually echoes something that actually happened in another real world game where their character died or somebody died, and they actually had at a certain time they had everybody stopped playing. They had a moment of silence. Everybody had a funeral for this one specific person that was really huge in the game community.
Wow.
So it's something that was really true to real life that has actually happened before.
So what do you think? So I know for certain that season 2's ending is a lot more stronger than season 1's. And so did you think that the ride, just following Sword Art Online, was it worth it?
I say it was worth it. It was as bumpy as the streets up and down Compton. It's still streets, but yeah, it was really hard to really follow that the entire way through.
Right. ChuniDex, what are your thoughts when you hear about part 2 of season 2?
I mean, I watched the very beginning of it just for this episode. I didn't have enough time to really get into it. There actually was an episode of Black Mirror that did something very similar to it, where it was almost sort of it was it's a really great show. It's brilliant, but it's basically about these two women. One of them who's hospitalized, who they basically go into a game similar to that, and she's about to die.
Mention it briefly because we only have.
I gotcha. And so it's basically a very similar premise, but it does the commentary brilliantly, and it makes me very curious how they do it here. That being, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as brilliant, but
might as well give it a shot, right?
Yeah, you might as well. And I think the funny thing is that this arc proves that if Asuna really could hold the show on her own, that she should be holding the show on her own. There's no point to even have Kirito in the show.
Now, I just want to wrap things up real quick. Team Love. Do you clap? I'm pretty sure you would clap for the series, right?
I would clap.
Marvin's clapping.
However, just know that it is going to be bumpy at a few points.
Right.
But yeah, overall, I think it is enjoyable. Don't overanalyze it.
Right.
Or analyze it at all, for that matter.
Right. Okay. So briefly, Dakota, clap or crap? Just one answer.
Go watch The Log Horizon.
Yeah, Log Horizon.
Scott, clap or crap?
If you're
briefly
9, and you don't mind watching something written by a sexist delusional nitwit, go ahead, try this.
Oh my gosh! Wow! Wow! Kaleb,
yes,
you and I are mediators, so clap or crap, just based on what we heard.
You guys should watch Log Horizon.
Log Horizon.
Log Horizon doesn't end either. Log Horizon pitters out.
Serious answer, probably clap, just because I'm more familiarized with what you guys have to say about the theme, and it's intriguing at the least.
Well, love it, hate it, don't matter. Doesn't matter to me, because Senpai noticed you. Bye, guys!